Happy birthday, happy birthday, happy birthday to me and Jenny. Since our birthdays are both in May, Jenny and I thought we'd get together to celebrate by sharing some card making ideas. Most of us got into card making to be able to make special cards for special people. We love to take our time and use all our creativity and our crafty goodies to make something that will let them know that we care. A few of us thought we would be saving money, but I'm pretty sure we all know the truth about that now. But what about those last-minute occasions when you need a card in a minute? I know, I've been there. So I've put together 5 ideas for super quick cards, plus recommendations for a quick card toolkit to have on hand to make it easy when you need a card in a hurry. I'll be making 5 birthday cards, but the tips will work for any card you need to make quickly, whatever size or occasion. Let's get started. Here's time saver tip 1, before we even start. Have your card bases cut and scored and ready to go. You can even have them folded if you want, but I find it easier to store them when they're flat. I have them ready in my 2 regular sizes, 4 1/4 inch square and A2. And I recommend using white or light color since it's easier to stamp on and write in. And while we're at it, have your front panels cut as well. I cut mine down to A2 size, and if I'm making a square card, it's a quick cut to trim it down to fit. For my first card, I've got a 4-inch square panel in my Misty. I've also got the birthday borders stamp set from Pretty Pink Posh. There's presents, confetti, and candles. Any of these would work for this card, but I'm going to work with the candles, and I set them up on my Misty so they'll stamp right across the width of my panel. Time saver tip 2 is to use a stamp positioner. It's tempting to just get out an acrylic block for a quick card, but trust me, if you don't get a good stamped impression the first time, the stamp positioner is really going to save you because you can just re-ink and stamp it again. I double stamped just to get a really dark black outline, and now I'm setting the panel aside to dry while I fold and burnish my card base. I ran out of tape runner when I went to glue the panel on, but I always have 2 on the go for precisely this reason. I can quickly just grab the other one if I run out. Time saver tip number 3. I'm not adding any dimension with foam tape on these cards, so I can just keep moving. You might be wondering why I didn't just make this into a 1-layer card and stamp directly onto the card base, and there's 3 reasons. The first is that if something goes wrong with the panel, it's cheaper to redo the panel rather than having to use a whole other card base. The second is that by having the panel on top of the card base, you get a subtle frame around the card that just adds a tiny bit of dimension and definition. And the third is that I wanted to add some yellow color to the flames with my Copic marker, and it can bleed through even the thick card-based cardstock, so this will prevent that from happening. I added a strip of light gray down one edge of each candle as well to create the look of dimension on the candles. It only took a few seconds, but of course adding these colors is optional. I think this works as a very simple black and white card too. Any of my quick designs today can be upgraded if you've got time. For this card, you could add a stamped sentiment to the front or to the inside. You could add a colorful mat behind the white 4-inch panel. You could color the candles themselves. I would say stick with a 2 or 3 color scheme to keep it quick. Before we move on to card number 2, here's a couple of items that are also great to have on hand for quick cards. First, pattern paper. There is no faster way to add color or create a background. Take a quick look through your stash and pull out something that's suitable for your card's recipient. Next, if you like to add embellishments, get some of these kind that come with adhesive on them already. Then you're not trying to find your glue and having to wait for the card to dry. I have this pretty watercolor looking pattern paper, and it's a perfect background for a stamp card. Because everything's going to be flat, I can attach it to my card before I stamp, but you can stamp first if you prefer. Now I'm going to grab a big happy birthday sentiment from this Waffle flower stamp set. This set is a great craft room basic. It has 2 big birthday sentiments that can stand alone on any card, plus it has lots of little add-on sentiments that can help you customize your card if you have the time. I chose to stamp this sentiment in one of Catherine Pooler's newest colors, Bay Breeze. It'll end up being less stark than black on my pretty pastel background. And to finish it off, I'll add 5 of these little enamel dots. I have a standard go-to layout with embellishments that helps me save time. I know I want to put 3 below the sentiment and 2 above. I don't need to spend a lot of time thinking about where they're going to go. Ideas for upgrading this card? You could heat emboss the stamping. You could ink blend the edges of your pattern paper for more interest or definition, or you could stamp that sentiment with more than one color. This works really well with the Misty. I can't tell you how many times I have made this exact card, and it is so easy to customize it to suit the recipient. I start with this old MFT die. It appears to be retired, but there are loads of these types of big word dies around these days, and I've linked a few for you below. I run this die through my die cutting machine with a 4¼ inch square white panel, and I grabbed a piece of pattern paper and I glued it onto my card base. A quick hack for easy alignment is to use the corner of your stamp positioner or scoreboard. Put the card right in the corner and then put the paper on top. Now I could just put the die cut panel on top like this, but it's easy to cut it down quickly by 1/8 inch on each side, and that way I get a colorful border around the white panel. And yes, it would have been faster and easier if I'd started with a 4-inch panel in the first place, but this way I had the option of having that frame or not. When I glue it down, I try to make sure I have glue on all those little floppy bits so that everything will really stay stuck down. And then I go with my standard 3-in-2 embellishment method, and this card is done. Finally, I stored all the letters in my pocket that I keep the die in, and that'll help me with a fast card another day. Here's some quick ideas for upgrading this card. You could dry emboss that white panel with an embossing folder. Or you could die cut numbers to personalize this card. That area in that top right corner is a perfect place. Or you could add back the letter centers. Now I'm going back to that big happy birthday sentiment and pattern paper idea. There's a matching die available for this sentiment, and that allows you to use this simple sentiment on pattern paper that is much busier. You can stamp before die cutting, but I'm going to die cut first. Then I can put the negative panel into my Misty, lay the die cut into the hole, line up the stamp, and get perfect placement. I'll keep that template with my stamp set, so if I ever want to do this again, or if I need to do multiples, I'll be able to line the stamp up once and stamp as many as I need, all with perfect placement. And as you can see, I didn't notice that my cardstock had shifted in my Misty, and I did not get perfect placement. So I had to cut another die cut and be more careful on my second attempt. That did not save me time at all, so try to remember to be careful about these little details so you can do better. Once I've got it stamped, I assemble the card with a fun rainbow pattern paper from my stash. This die cut really helps that sentiment pop from the dense background. And again, everything is flat, and this time I used black embellishments, so they'll stand out against that colorful pattern paper. This one took a little longer, mostly because of my mistake, but also because there's more to this design with the stamping and die cutting, but it still goes pretty quickly. If you're looking to upgrade this one, you could easily pop up that die cut, you could heat emboss the stamping, you could add a black mat for more definition. Yes, ink blending. I'm starting with this spotlight stencil from Waffle Flower, but you can create your own with a circle die and some cardstock if you've got time. I know, it's not really considered a fast technique, and this is definitely not the time for experimentation and learning. You want guaranteed success and no do-overs when you only have a few minutes. If you happen to get this far and you're not happy with your blending, just keep going over it and over it until you have heavy, solid coverage. Yes, it's nice to get that dimensional look with the shading, but anyone who sees a solid red circle on a card will know it's a balloon. And to make it look more like a balloon, I grabbed a black Copic multiliner. I drew a kind of squiggly line down, trying to keep it in the center, and then I drew 2 little loops and tails for a bow. And again, I started with the wrong size panel, so I trimmed it down to create that subtle frame where the panel layer ends and the card base continues. And as I'm assembling this card, I'm very careful to be aware of where my smudge risk areas are on my desk. It would have been better to clean it off, but hey, sometimes I like living on the crafty edge. This time I added some little enamel hearts. I started with 3 larger ones, and then I realized I also had some smaller ones, so I added them before I took the photos. If you wanted to upgrade this card, you could stamp a sentiment, you could deepen the shading with another color, or you could have more than one balloon with some overlap to add even more colors and visual interest. And one final time-saving tip. To make cards fast, you need to know what supplies you have. That way you're not spending a ton of time searching. I use an app called Evernote to easily search my crafty inventory, and I'll link my video above if that's something you're interested in. But as long as you have a system that works for you, you're set up to succeed with quick cards. Now it's almost time to head to Jenny's channel for her birthday video, but before you go, here's my birthday gifts to you. First, a link to my blog where you can get a free PDF of these time-saving tips and my suggestions for a quick card toolkit. There's also a live link in the description below. And if you leave me a happy birthday wish in the comments below, you'll have a chance to win my birthday giveaway. All the details are in the description box below. Thanks so much for watching. See you next time.